starts out with prayer. Okay, Creator, we want to thank you for this day. We would pray for all those that have family members that are ill. They have folks that are traveling, if they travel safe. If they've lost a loved one, that their heart is healed quickly. We pray for all the people that don't have food or shelter today, that they find that. We pray that our decisions today and our discussions are informed and are the best of the interest of our people and our land. We do all this in your name. Amen. Okay, we got the meeting minutes for April 21st. For your consideration. Hello? Hello?
I'll make a motion to approve the April 21 minutes with corrections.
Motion by Len to approve the April 21st minutes with corrections.
I'll second.
Seconds the motion to approve the April 29th minutes with corrections. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those show of hands. Okay. All in favor, Jimmy and Bing abstain. Next, we have our agenda. Draft agenda for any additions or changes to the agenda. Just one update for tomorrow's schedule. Anything else for the agenda? Looking good?
We're good. Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Len to approve the agenda with additions. Second by Anita. Approve today's agenda with additions. All those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Jen, do we have any walk-ins? Okay. Just briefly want to remind everybody of tomorrow's schedule. Hello, hello. Tomorrow is a great day where we start recognizing our important staff. There is scheduled at Quatucknuck the admin professionals thank you luncheon. So that's from 12 to 2. We'll remind council of that if you want to participate. I think they need to know the head count. And again, I think at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, EPA is going to be here. And we'll meet in the council chambers meeting room right here. So if anybody wants to participate, I know they're having a field trip earlier than that to look at the Dixon Agency, look at the Bison Range, the issue of you know, groundwater, other potential things that are out there. So that's going to be on part of their interest level for tomorrow. Go ahead, Nita.
I just wanted to say that they moved all the trains yesterday. I had a email from John on Saturday that they were going to do it Monday morning. So I hurried out and tried to put a Facebook for people down there that live there to be aware in between 10 and 11, they were going to be hooking up them trains, but they moved every one of them out of there. It just looks way different, so different. But anyway, that's a plus for the month.
Way to go. That's pretty cool. I'm not sure if they're putting those in line because of the fuel, you know, petroleum shortages. They're using them again. I'd venture that's probably what's going on.
I think they leased them out. They got them used. So that's the reason they moved them. But boy, they had a slug of them. It was.
They got them stockpiled all across the country. One last thing I added for legal update. Jen sent it out to you this morning for the Arlie Powell Committee. I know that Bob Gochi is volunteering to help Ron and company. And so what they want to do is be able to raise money outside. So they wanted to establish a nonprofit entity, which is, you know, just for fundraising. So one of those requirements would be to have a MOU type of an arrangement with the tribal council. So that's a draft consideration for council and legal. So we can, you know, try to set up a entity with an endowment. So hopefully down the road, you wouldn't even have annual funding that would be required by our annual budget. So that would be the long-term goal, as Bob Gochi explained it to me, which I think is a great idea. So if they can solicit other funding sources outside and start an endowment to operate the powwow every year forever, I think that's pretty cool. So I was encouraged by it. But yeah, go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think that's a good move in the right direction. However, I would like to see both powwow committees working together on something like this. I think that would be beneficial for Standing Arrow also. But I would still support a donation from the tribe for both powwow committees in the future. Although, you know, if they continue to get any kind of additional funding, I think it's important that we support this for our people.
Fully agree. That's the important thing is that I think Bob, this is his only request. So I asked him the same question. So I think once this, we do it for one, then the recipe, the whole setup, it's easy. You just step right into it for the other powwow committee. And I think I would venture to say that we would need to always support them, but hopefully it would not be as much, or, you know, maybe they become richer than us. So that would be, I'd love to see that. Anyway, just want to make sure that's what Jen sent you as far as an additional item for today's agenda. So that's all I have. Sirs, any last minute updates? Go ahead, Jennifer.
I just found out about this thing called Amazon Smile, where you can donate, it's free to sign up and they'll donate a small percentage of whatever you purchase to your charity of choice. And I thought since the tribes just established a 501(c), or maybe this powwow committee 501(c), there's an opportunity for people who are buying things online that a percentage of whatever they buy, there will be a donation made to that organization. So that's something I just found out about over the weekend.
That's a golden opportunity. Thank you, Jennifer. I'll let Bob Gochi know about that one. Yeah, go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So during this past week, I had the opportunity to meet with tribal elder Leona Juno, or Tiny Juno from Elmo. And she was very frustrated because regarding some of the services that she's been requesting. But one of her complaints that she had was her lack of response or returning phone calls to her. And she was just irate. There were some things that she would just just some simple issues, simple requests that she was wanting to talk to staff people, and she left a lot of messages, and she didn't really say who, but she just wanted me to relay this message to the council that we need to continue to get that message to our staff people that they need to start returning calls. And so just I told her I would mention that to council and make sure her message was shared with everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Len. Actually, that was going to be part of my speech tomorrow at the luncheon.
All right.
So that's a good reminder. I've heard that still, that we can do a better job to answer the phones and return messages on a timely manner. I think that's the one thing I agree with Governor Gianforte on. That's your basic customer service, being responsive. So appreciate that. Well, we'll jump into our first agenda item, and I see Chuck online here. So good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Council. Hopefully this is pretty short. We have a request for contract approval for some fiber construction at some necessary locations. One of the main ones is the Bison range. I'm not sure if you guys are aware or not, there's some connectivity issues out there. A lot of it's old legacy copper network. It was never upgraded. We ended up, for emergency situation, we got pretty lucky with Starlink, the Elon Musk satellite internet system out there. We put in for that and got it right away, but it's still fairly inadequate to cover the entire interior of the Bison range. So what we did is we put together an engineering for the internal Bison range, which would be one segment we're calling the internal. The external segment would be from the AIS location located on Highway 93 going into the entrance of the Bison range. That would meet the internal network at the Bison range. And that would allow us to tie the Bison range in to the CSKT core network, just like any other program and department. There would be no ongoing costs for that other than just our normal network maintenance. We would own that fiber segment from the AIS station up 200 through 212 to the Bison range entrance. On page, let's see here.
See the line on your map on page 8.
Page 8 is where we're at. So basically we would go from the AIS station, we'd drop a vault there at the intersection of 93 and 200 for future growth, because this would also play into our long-term goal, if we get awarded the NTIA Travel Broadband Connectivity Program grant, this is actually a segment that was engineered in that proposal. We'd have a lateral over into Dixon at the housing water tower there. And then we'd have a lateral into the old agency. And then it would end at the Bison Range entrance. But that would be fully owned by CSKT. The next segment on page 9 is what we're calling the internal, and that would be to connect all the facilities within the interior of the Bison Range on a fiber optic network. And that would allow us to get the connectivity we need at each of those locations. Third segment is we're calling the Pablo Highway 93 segment, is from Pablo headquarters clear to housing, and then we would have a lateral to the Elders location, the newly acquired bank building, S&K Holding. We would have a vault at the old People Center, and there again, that's planning ahead if the grant goes through. That would be the location of the new network operations center for the big broadband deployment. And then we would end at housing. Total for all of this is $730,000. It's getting paid for out of 2 different funding sources. One, I believe, is ARPA, and the other is some funding source that NRD has that Whisper Means developed for the internal portion of the Bison Range.
Mark?
And
Question, Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Chuck and Renee. Just curious about, I apologize, I don't have the map in front of me on my phone, long story, but is there fiber that goes up Ravalli Hill or connects over to the Mission side as well, or is there fiber up on that side?
are like CSKT owned fiber or just in general?
I guess in general.
Yes, there's fiber down Highway 93 that goes through that corridor. It's owned by, it's a co-op between the Heim Network and Ronan Telephone Company.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to support the proposal from IT.
Question by Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chuck, are the maps here, are they incorporated in the contract? Because the scope of work is pretty vague.
Yes, the drawings are a part of the contract. It was just, when you're running fiber, you can say from an engineering perspective, well, this segment will be aerial, this segment will be underground until you get into the ground, and you may hit a boulder the size of Pablo. I mean, it changes most of the time when you're engineering these. Short of knowing exactly what poles they're going to go on or an aerial segment, you don't know what's in the ground. You may have to reroute. So yes, this is a part of it.
Thank you, Chuck. I'll second the motion.
One more question by me, Chuck. The Ravalli Hill question is kind of relevant because we're planning some other development at the scenic turnout. So I guess to hook that in, would that be directly through the Blackfoot Ronan telephone fiber optic line at Ravalli Hill, or?
No, sir. So I don't know how many of you are aware that last year we put in for a $50 million infrastructure grant through the NTIA. The grant is called the tribal broadband connectivity program. It was supposed to be awarded first quarter of this year, and that didn't happen. The problem was, actually, I can back up just a little further and give you, during CARES, there was a lot of money that was put out for broadband efforts, and a lot of it was piggybacked on the tribal rural opportunity window for the 2.5 spectrum, which we did apply for, and we were awarded. In that time, we constructed 480-foot carrier grade towers throughout the reservation, and we also built fiber optic from those towers and 200 amp service power down to the major access. So like Jetty went down to Highway 93, Pistol Creek went down to Highway 93. Oliver Point went down to Buffalo Bridge, and we met at the substation there just across the bridge. So then now we need to get connectivity to those towers. So therein lied the problem with the funding source through CARES. It was we needed to negotiate middle mile infrastructure to get those towers connected back to Pablo. All efforts in doing so were not very feasible from a financial standpoint, especially being nonprofit. The proposals we got back were just not sustainable. Well, in doing so, the other tribes were in the same position, and all of this went to the FCC, and they started generating a funding source that would fix the problem of middle mile infrastructure and backhaul being feeding internet into your network. That's where the Ntia Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program came into play. So that would fill the gap that ensued with the broadband efforts during the CARES spending. The problem is that it was a $1.6 billion funding source, and it came in 5 times with 301 applications. There were consortiums in Alaska, Arizona that came in at 150 million. The soft cap on the grant was $50 million. And some of these projects were in excess of 150, $250 million. So out of those 301 applications, not very many of them were shovel ready. CSKT's project is shovel ready. We worked on it for 6 months. All the engineering was done. We had competitive quotes from as many people as we could get quotes from, more than adequate for the application process. We had good justification, good demographics. We had all the letters of intent to participate from other carriers and businesses and entities inside the Flathead Reservation. But just because we're shovel ready and other tribes are shovel ready, that doesn't mean that they're going to award us right away. They got to vet all the applications that were not shovel ready. And being in the Pacific Northwest, our construction window is pretty short, and I just don't think that they would award in the middle of the season because all the contractors are full. Their schedules are full for the season. So anything that comes out, and this is what's anticipated. I've been speaking pretty close with Danae Wilson over at the Nez Pierce. She's holds a pretty strong position with the FCC and tribal broadband efforts, and we're both under the same thought process that I don't think we're going to get awarded until this fall. With that said, we still have buildings that need to be connected and need to continue that quality of service throughout our facilities. And in doing so, all the segments that we're building out at this point meet what we have already engineered for the grant program. So these are segments we wouldn't have to redo, that we can maybe shift dollars around in our project for other areas of need.
Okay. Unfortunate story, but my question would be, what would we hook a new facility at Ravalli Hill to for broadband or internet?
Oh, sorry, I went way off. With that said, the grant, we're running a 96 count fiber from Missoula to Kalispell, and it actually goes right by there. So the only segment we would have to bring in on page 9 would be that lower Bison Range Road all the way out. We would just cut across that road and tie into that 96 count fiber. With that, I mean, it's kind of a part of the plan.
So when we build a new Three Chiefs Visitor Center on top of Ravalli Hill, we'll be hooking it in that way.
Correct.
Okay. My next question is, when the high school superintendent or the Dixon school superintendent was presenting a report to us, I asked her what her internet needs were, and she said none. She said she was hooked in to,
Blackfoot.
yeah, that there was no need for the school. So I thought that was interesting, because I thought maybe the town of Dixon was suffering from the same thing as the Bison Ranch facility was. I'm assuming that they just have some copper line that the school is utilizing. And if that was the case, and running that spur, well, why would we run that spur directly to the school?
The spur is not to the school.
See that?
We're actually running it to the there's a housing has a water, sort of a watershed there, that a water treatment building. We're actually going to run it to that. I tried to get the school involved out there, and I kind of got the same reply that they were covered. So with our 2.5 license network, I can actually cover Dixon pretty well from that water treatment building.
So if they wanted to connect into our system in the future, they could do that to that building.
Wirelessly, yes. And with our deployment with the grant, we actually are going to go right into town. There will be another segment from that vault there on 200 into town. That way it'd give us distribution in town.
And you're in town, there's no reason why you can't go. There's a reason why you can't go to the school when you go into town.
There is no reason why we can't, other than if the school wants fiber into their facility.
That's my trouble with it. I can't imagine them not wanting fiber.
Ronan Telephone Company's kind of been working on that for a while. They don't understand the dynamics there as well. I would really like to talk to somebody at the Dixon school, because that's one of the highest buildings in town there. It'd be a good deployment place for us.
Go ahead, Nita.
Chuck, have you ever talked to Krista Anderson? That's a principal down there in fairly easy to get a hold of. I know we used to hold our meetings down there, and we never had like the Zoom and that then, so I don't know how it worked, but you know, we just did the presentations with a drive, but I'm like Tom, I can't understand why they wouldn't want to get in on it.
I was actually given that information as well early on when we were engineering for the grant, and I can reach back out to Chris again and see what their thoughts are. Maybe something has changed, but at the time they seemed like they had fairly adequate connectivity, and we're happy with it, but we can definitely reach out to them.
Yeah, following up on that, it says 246-3566 and you know, if I were them, I think I'd be wanting to jump in on it.
Okay, motion by Len, second by Mike. Oh, Martin, sorry. Motion by Martin, seconded by Len to approve the contract agreement for installation of the fiber optic line for Moe's and Dixon and agency. Is there any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you, Chuck. I want to know, where's your tent set up at?
My tent,
It looks like a tent behind you.
it's
Okay.
actually, it's just a,
Okay. Okay, all right, he's out skiing somewhere. Okay.
all right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Chuck. See you.
Yep.
Okay, Lynn, Greg, perfect timing. Les. Oh, you brought the big gun with you, huh? We do have, yeah, push the button. Yeah, we do have your packet information with the
Okay.
maps.
My presentation starts on page 12, and if possible, we think it would be a good move to go into executive session for this discussion.
Okay, we'll move into executive session.